Welcome to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. You can visit Dr. Johnson's blog at benwoodpost.com. Dr. Johnson's works can be found at drbenwoodjohnson.com. You can also support Dr. Johnson on Patreon, the link to which is in the description. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. Today is January 13, 2020. This is podcast number 40. Today we are going to talk about still evil. In this case, we're going to talk about what makes people tick, what makes people do bad things to one another. Of course, we were supposed to talk about doing the right thing, but today we are talking about the reasons that motivate people to behave a certain way, to act a certain way, to treat other people a certain way. Sometimes we do things to others, and we don't realize the degree to which what we did could hurt others. So we go about treating people in ways that we don't really think about the effects of those treatments, and sometimes they could lead others to hate us. They could create feelings of disdain in others. So it is important. So without further ado, let us delve right into it. There was a popular song by a group called Depeche Mode, or Depeche Mode, depending on how you want to pronounce it, in which the lead singer asked, quite inquisitively I might add, what makes a man hate another man? He said he cannot understand what makes a man hate another man. Now, this is a group that was very famous in the 80s, and I am an 80s junkie. I mean, I was born in the 70s, but I grew up with 80s music, so to this day, this is the kind of music I really enjoy. But this is not about music here. This is about this question, this fundamental question as to what makes a man hate another man. I have thought about it, and in the process of thinking about it, I think I have found my own answer to that question. Now, it might not be a universal answer, but it is nevertheless my answer to this question. I think that what makes a man hate another man is because of what the other man made to the man. I think that it is a perpetual fate that men will harm men. And by harming man will make other man harm other man. And this is the perpetual thing in which it's always a man who's responsible for what another man does. Now, this may sound a little bit trivial to you, but it is nevertheless my understanding of what makes a man hate another man. Now, let me give you an example. I have this view, okay, in which I say to myself, well, people who have had it hard, people who have suffered the most, they are the people you have to watch carefully, because these are the people that are going to make others suffer even the worse than they did, right? So in other words, what I'm saying is that people who never had a life, once they have the opportunity, the first thing they're going to do, they're going to try to destroy other people's life. Why, you may wonder? Well, it is a simple premise. And basically what I'm saying is that if somebody had a hard time in life, okay, let us say that somebody grew up in a family where he or she had no hope of becoming anything in his life, right? Somebody who grew up in an environment where the prospects of becoming becoming something in society was pretty low, and then he or she knew that he was not going to amount to nothing. Now, it could be for any reason, be it personal reason, family reason, intellectual reason. It could be anything, but that person had a hard time to make it, right? Once that person becomes in a position, okay, that person is going to dedicate his life, whether subconsciously, to destroying other people's life. These are the kinds of people that are extremely judgmental. These are the people that are the haters of the world. These are the people that just don't tolerate things that other people do. Because the reason they don't tolerate what other people do is because they know what other people can do. Because they've been there, okay? They have been there, they have experienced it, they have done it, and oftentimes they can imagine things that you could do to them because they knew what they could have done to others when they were in this position. And they become these haters. They become these people that you really don't want to be around. They become the boss that just don't care that you have a problem. You can't come to work today. They become the boss that are going to fire you in the middle of Christmas. They're the boss that they just don't care, right? And any opportunity they have to make your life miserable, they will. So these people are likely to engage in conducts that would be detrimental to others. They are likely to nourish feelings of hatred, jealousy, resentment in their heart for others. They are likely to hurt others for nothing, just simply because they have the opportunity to do so. Now, what I am saying here is not a perfect science. I couldn't talk about man as if, men were obvious. When the singer of the song mentioned earlier talked about he cannot understand what makes a man hate another man, it's a simple question. But the assumption here is that he cannot fathom what would motivate somebody to have feelings of hatred, resentment towards another. Now, I think having feelings of hatred, resentment, disdain for another is somewhat natural. I've talked about this in some of my books, especially the book about racism, where I sort of lay out that as human beings, we have certain proclivities to feel certain way, or certain ways. Now, of course, sometimes we feel a certain way, we act a certain way, we behave a certain way because we are ourselves afraid of the other, okay? And because we are afraid of the other, we anticipate from the other things that we might do to him or her. And as a result, we create a situation, we create an atmosphere of disdain, resentment, scorn, contempt, where the conditions might meet, the conditions might be propitious for hatred to fester. And to me, that's what makes a man hate another. It is this feeling of fear, hatred, this desire to see the other suffer, okay? And I think when we are looking at the concept of hatred from a philosophical standpoint, from the context of an existentialist, as Jean-Paul Sartre would talk about the objectification of the other, where we sort of objectify the other, okay? We sort of dehumanize the other, okay? There are oftentimes reasons that are sometimes embedded in our being, reasons that are embedded in our soul, in our beingness, that allow us to feel that way or to treat somebody else that way. And I think as human beings, we have to look inside our souls to keep ourselves in check. We have to always look on our shoulders to make sure we didn't do something to somebody. We didn't hurt somebody. As they say where I come from, papi les pieds, moun son pas dit pardon. In other words, don't step on somebody's toe or somebody's toes without saying, I'm sorry. So it is always important to keep yourself in check. It is always important to double check with your partner or your friend, even people you don't know. Make sure. Always be prepared to say, I'm sorry. Always be prepared to apologize even when you didn't do anything wrong, at least from your perspective, because sometimes that could be an incentive, okay, for a man to hate another. And I think as human beings, we have to be conscious of that. We have to be conscious of sometimes we do things rather inadvertently or on purpose that could have consequences onto the other. So, to go back to the original question, what makes a man hate another man? The answer is simple. Sometimes what we do is what motivates somebody else to do to us what we would probably not have done to them. Or sometimes what we do is what motivates another to do to us the same thing that we did to them. So it is always important to keep ourselves in check. It is always important to look inside our souls, to understand who we are in terms of where we came from, how we experience our lives. It is always important to remember, at least to keep ourselves in check, to know who we are, what we've been through, what we've experienced, and not to allow ourselves to make others experience something similar to what we've gone through, to what we've experienced in our lives. Because oftentimes, it is what we've gone through that motivates us to do to others something that is unspeakable. So it is always important to keep ourselves in check. And when we do that, we give ourselves the opportunity, we give ourselves the chance not to do to another what we wouldn't want the other to do to us. And therefore, we will always be in tune with our reality, and we would be able to answer the question, what makes a man hate another man is what the other man did to the man.